Hi, Julie.
Hi, Sarah.
How you doing?
Oh, just dandy.
I see you have your dragon earrings on.
Yes, I do. Can you see that they're dragons? I mean business.
Yes,
Don't mess with me. I'll breathe fire on you.
I hope that's is a theme that's coming up. Maybe we were going to start talking about the new like where we left off last time was after the new moon on October 14th, I guess. So now we're looking at the new moon that just happened.
On the
Uh,
13th of November.
yes, and that was pretty, as you said, a whopper.
It was potent, yeah. It was, oh dear, I thought I had this in front of me. Well, who cares? Yeah, it was conjunct Mars
Yeah.
and
Yeah, conjunct Mars and
opposite Uranus.
oh God.
Yeah. Oh, here, I know where it is. Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was conjunct Mars and opposite Uranus. So everyone was expecting an explosion, but you and me and everybody we know, it didn't explode in Iceland.
Right?
If only it would get it over with, right? Because there's a million earthquakes there. But it certainly looks like a explosive thing, and the war goes on, and the explosions are pretty bad, and
Well, that brings me to a question because I mean that was right around the time that we started to get the news that Iceland was having all these 3,000, 30,000.
it was around the new moon just recently.
Yeah, like I heard about it about a week ago or not. Yeah, just recently or no, on the weekend past. So it was just around the new moon that I heard about it. And so
Cool. Yeah.
what that makes me think is does the new moons kind of set a chart for the whole month? Like, does
Yes,
it, right?
it
So,
does. The new moon is a seed and there's often not an event at new moons because it's the dark of the moon, right? But it's a seed that will grow and develop throughout the month, and it
right.
culminates at the full moon.
Okay. See, that's so interesting because we were all expecting an explosion with Mars conjunct the new moon opposed to
No,
Uranus. It's
no, not. I expect nothing at the new moon. The new moon is magic. That's why I do my moon things on the new moon, because the new moon is really a magical moment that you can align yourself with nature. You can align yourself with the natural energies, right? So you can, I don't know, sneak in or tell the universe what you would like to have happen, or what, I don't think of it as I think we have to, it can't be just about the will, but it's an alignment with, that was a very powerful new moon in my chart, and I'm going to feel what it conjuncted for the whole month, for sure, at least.
yeah, right. So you align, you set your intentions to align.
Yes, and I would say it's already working. I can see that it's already working. It was conjunct my Chiron in the first house, and I asked, my alignment was I wanted to be aligned with whatever Chiron meant. Chiron is the wounded healer. And so I've had some pretty powerful insights about my own, let's call it Chironic nature.
Right. And Chiron is the wounded, the spot in our chart that represents the wounded healer. So it's the wound that never quite heals, but teaches us how to heal. And then therefore that knowledge we gain um, is there to support others and heal others. That's why the wounded
That's right.
heal.
So that was just for me, though. That
Yeah.
was just in my chart. But
Right.
yes, if ever there was a wounded healer.
Well, I mean, that's you kind of explaining how to do the magic is to align. Like once you understand your sort of what's happening, you can say like, because I find that so helpful when we are like, oh, this is what's happening. I better just accept what's happening and roll with it rather than try to fight what's happening. So
Well,
you're,
I better align myself with what's happening,
yeah,
right? So the mistake would have been saying, I don't want any part of my Chiron, go away,
right.
right? I'm not interested in learning one more thing, thank you, about myself and my woundedness. but
Yeah.
I invited it in. I said, I'm interested. Teach me something. I think that we give a lot of I mean, this today isn't about Chiron, but I think we focus a lot on Chiron's woundedness, and we need to focus more on Chiron's mentorship. Chiron teaches us things.
Right. Right.
But
And
humans, well, actually, this is today. Humans are very slow learners. We only learn, it seems, when we suffer.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. One thing I've noticed as a person who works in the healing arts with people is that the two great motivators for growth, for change, for healing, one is pain. It persists until people address it, and pleasure, right? So Mars and Venus, right? Pleasure, something feels good, something motivates you, you want more of it, so it makes you do the new thing that will bring
Well, if
healing.
something feels good, you activate your desire, but you don't always learn from it until
Right.
you lose it.
Right. Yeah, usually first the pain comes and then right. So yeah, so as an illustration of how to use the new moons, you look and see what's there and you align with it. And sometimes people don't have to know what their chart is. They can just feel into what they're with in their psyche.
I
And
don't think you can get it wrong. You
yeah,
cannot get it wrong.
right. Unless you're totally ignoring what is. Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, like accept what is, be with it and align with it, and then you can move it and learn something, grow, you know, use it to its fullest potential. And so
Yeah. So the only thing you could get wrong, right, about the new moon is not paying any attention to it. Yeah.
right. Yeah. And so having seen what an explosive nature that new moon was, with Mars conjunct Sun in Pluto or in Scorpio, Sun and Moon, as a new moon is conjunct with the Sun, conjunct Mars, opposing Uranus and Taurus. And then wasn't it square Saturn too? No, no, square the nose.
No, it was square Black Moon Lilith, but who cares about that except you and me?
Well, you never know, but okay, so maybe what we will see in the full moon is like maybe a fruition of all of those earthquakes that they keep waiting for in Iceland. Not that I want it to happen. I'm not saying that. I'm just from an
Well, I
astro.
think they need it to happen because what's happening is it's disrupting all the, if it blows, then there's a release of what, this is constant. People can't sleep, their houses are shaking, their
Right,
lives are shaking.
right,
So yes, it may be bad for the people in that town, but it needs to blow, it needs to move, it needs like
like a
you need to lance the boil. But
yeah,
someone I know who's connected to Iceland said if it blows, it'll go down to the sea. So
right.
it won't be like the one that we had a few years ago, that ruined where nobody could fly
Nobody
for.
can fly. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's not really necessarily a world event that the whole world will experience, but certainly it's a very interesting thing that it's not releasing, that it's just rumbling and rumbling and
building. Yeah, and so
building. Yeah.
maybe there will be a release around the full moon. It'll be in astrological curiosity to see if that does come to fruition in the full moon.
Yeah, well, the full moon isn't in Scorpio. The full moon is in Sagittarius. The full moon is on November 27th in in
In Sag.
Eastern time. And the full moon is pretty hot. It's, wouldn't you know, the sun is conjunct Mars at the full moon, and it was conjunct Mars at the new moon.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
not always what happens, right? So the theme of Mars is still there, and Mars is the god of war.
Yeah.
So we know that we're dealing with that. That new moon has, oh, it's really interesting. So that new moon has the sun conjunct Mars and Ceres, and sorry, that full moon, and the new moon had the sun and the moon conjunct Mars and Ceres.
That's quite a coincidence to
So
have.
what happened is that it's just synchronistic that Mars goes into Sag and the Sun goes into Sag, and they're catching up to each other. So the actual conjunction of the Sun that's exact to Mars would have been about 2 days, is about 2 days before the full moon on the 27th. But
Okay. But
trust me, that's pretty close.
still hot and fiery with the sun.
Yeah, but square to Saturn.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
So I think I think signs follow each other in a kind of, like, we make sense of it, right? So Scorpio is the deep down place of loss and mystery, and Sag is like, okay, it's the revelation.
mhm.
But Scorpio can be diabolically draining, and Sag can be fundamentally, it can be like fundamentalist thinking.
Yeah.
So there's a real sense of I think I'm not going to solve the problems of the world, because nobody really cares who could make a difference. But in our lives as individuals,
Yeah.
the new moon was about asking ourselves how we deal with the intensity of our feelings, and the Mars, like the energy of our feelings and the fear that we have of actually feeling. The
Yes.
full moon is what we believe about the
Oh.
world, right? Sag and Gemini. The full moon is in Gemini, so it's more about our beliefs and our a sense of, if this is what I feel, then this is what I understand, maybe.
Well, it's true.
Usually.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because a lot of times our feelings are born out of what our belief structures are.
That's Scorpio into Sag,
Yeah.
Scorpio to Sag, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a different belief structure, we have different feelings, right?
Mhm.
So, and if we have a revelation, which could have happened with Uranus in there, um, then maybe some of our belief structures could change.
They absolutely could. There's a lot of drag to the change, like individuals are changing, but there's a lot of drag.
In the collective.
There's a lot of systemic drag, yes.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think I understand about Sag, the negative side can be the fundamentalism and the dogma. And I think you said this about Sag. Is it Sag and Gemini being the most dualistic signs, the most black and white?
They're the most bipolar.
Yeah, bipolar, right. In the true sense of the word, right? Like they can be either all light or all dark. And people don't usually talk about that with Sag. They always talk about how optimistic they are, and that it's just because they can't deal with their deep feelings. I can say this because I'm a Sag.
Right.
That they prefer to only show the light, right? But they can be quite dark or sad.
I think of Sag, especially when Mars is there, as the holy war,
Yeah.
right? And the optics of what's going on in Israel and Palestine is really making people crazy. It's really hard to add it up and find any kind of resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's wrong. Everything about it is wrong.
Yeah.
From the start. Right.
And I think the only way out of it, well, I don't know, but the polarity and the polarization that actually we've all been through since, at least I can feel it since the pandemic, right? Like,
oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
People have been polarized. You pick an issue, you've got two sides warring it out, no matter what it is, and maybe all of this polarization will bring together essentially a synthesis or something where we can...
I think it's the big thing. I think it's the big ask to get us from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, is that we understand that we're all human, and that all of life, in a sense, is human. Like, humanity includes I don't know, the raccoons, the you know, it includes the climate, or the ocean and the waters and everything. We are not separate.
Yeah.
And I feel all this negativity that we're experiencing in the world it's like it's going to keep punching at us until we get it.
Until we get that really we're all connected. Like
Right. And so if we want to, as individuals, we can stop polarizing.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Yeah. I mean, it's so what's the word? It's so seductive to really think or feel like you could choose a side and win.
But, Sag and Gemini, the full moon, is like there are ethical, moral wrongs that people do, and we do have to discriminate that.
100%, 100%.
I don't want to make it sound like
no,
you should
and
just be a noodle. Yeah.
And there is a value, right, to debate. There's a value, but the value is that we take both sides or we listen to the points of and be able to come together with some kind of understanding or come together with something to move forward with that we didn't know before, right?
Would be good. Yes.
Yeah. So
Speaking
I'm
of
not
which,
saying we know how to solve the problem. I'm saying, like, in terms of principles of opposites or polarities, even in yin and yang, they separate first, then they come together and make a third. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I think we're all being called to because and I'm saying from my own experience of it's seductive to want to get onto a side and start proving you're right. I'm such. So
you're right.
You're right. That's the thing I love to hear.
So that should bring us to Mercury retrograde.
Yes. When is that happening?
Mercury retrograde is in December 13th. And then it goes direct on January 1st.
Okay, what's happening?
What's interesting about Mercury retrograde is it goes retrograde in Capricorn, but it goes direct in Sag.
Okay.
So there's a shadow of Mercury retrograde, right? Where Mercury goes retrograde at 8 degrees of Capricorn, and then it retrogrades, let's do it this way, it retrogrades back to 22 degrees of Sag, and then it goes direct, and then it goes back. So you could say when it's at 22 degrees of Sag before it's retrograde, it's activating the issues. Okay. So that's so the shadow starts around November 26th, so it's very soon.
Like right around the full moon. Yeah.
Huh?
Right around the full moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is really interesting about that, of course, is that Mercury will be squaring Neptune.
Okay. And what does
Mars will be conjuncting Neptune. Right? So Mercury squares Neptune on the 27th. So exactly as it enters the shadow with the square to Neptune. And then when it goes direct on January, whatever I said, January 1st, Mercury will be conjunct Mars, which will be squaring Neptune.
Oh my goodness, because Neptune is down in Pisces, so that's a square to Sag.
Right. However, I want to say before we go into doom and despair that when Mercury is in Capricorn, it's going to be trining Jupiter. And I think the most mysterious moment is when Mercury is retrograde and Cazimi, when it conjuncts the sun. I think that's a special day for those who tune into it. And this year, Mercury is Cazimi on the solstice, 0 degrees of Capricorn.
Oh my gosh, it's so
very cosmic. I'm not sure what we should do about it, but it's very cosmic.
Right. So when you're talking, I have a sense of all this activity happening in Sag around the full moon, like you said, November 27th. and then Mercury going into shadow around that, kind of lining up the issues, starting to feel into what Mercury is going to be sorting out while it's retrograde. And then Sag being like what we just discussed, beliefs, some fundamental beliefs, whatever gets activated during that full moon. And then also on the solstice, Mercury with conjunct the sun is going to offer some deep insight that we can
be. I mean, the solstice is such a I was just writing this for my website. It'll be on my website. It'll be in my insights. But
we'll put the link down below for your insight. And
sure.
also if you want to join into Julie's moons, then I'll put that down there.
Yeah, you could do that too. But the solstice, the winter solstice, is the birth of the year. It's the birth of the king. It's the birth of the light, right? It's this outrageous day when you know that there's nothing but despair, and then suddenly somebody who can figure it out notices that the sun, in those 3 days of the solstice, the sun appears not to move, and then it starts to get brighter, slowly, very slowly, brighter, warmer in the north, So this is northern hemisphere stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. So, which is also a very powerful time energetically in the world. And so that alignment with the sun and Mercury, and then moving forward, as it starts to go forward, it's going to trine, which is a positive aspect to Jupiter. And Jupiter also deals with fundamental beliefs, and like you said, moral and ethic issues.
Well, Jupiter in Taurus is values. It's what you spend your money, time, energy, and love on.
Okay. So we can start to see possibly some positive, we know because it's a trine, positive movements towards things that we value, and hopefully we value wholeness.
The earth, Taurus, hopefully we value earth.
Right. So so there's a positive thing happening, which is good too.
I think it's very positive. I think what's negative, the square to Neptune, is the con. And you can have your conspiracy theories, but it's the con in our own mind that makes us want to blame and project and think that we can actually figure it out, the big it out, rather than simply navigate our own mental landscape.
Right.
The thoughts in our own mind. So the square to Neptune, and especially when Mars gets involved, is really, like, wow, we've been barking up the wrong tree, or we've been looking down the wrong rabbit hole. But the trine to Jupiter is about stability and structure and, things that matter. And I mean, I see this all the time. Like the world is going to rack and ruin, but there's a gazillion people who have a gazillion really good ways of dealing with stuff. And it just seems that the power brokers don't allow it to flow, right? It stops and starts, but and then there's the Republicans. But there's a sense that it's almost like the Capricorn Sag back and forth is something we all need to think about.
Right.
What are you building? What kind of structures are you building?
Right.
In the face of so much that you don't understand.
That's how I feel every day.
That's why I knit.
Yeah.
Because I'm structuring little, so to speak, garments that have shoulders and, sides.
And you can see that something is coming into formation, and it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's one other thing that I think I wanted to cover that you mentioned. Oh, Jupiter stationing, because right now it's retrograde.
Yeah, so Jupiter's going to spend 2 months about at 5 degrees of Taurus. So if you have anything at 5 degrees of a sign, you might be getting something from Jupiter.
Yay!
The thing I was thinking of is that there was a moon a while back. Oh, well, I thought there was something that happened at 5 degrees of Taurus, but I don't know, maybe I just dreamed it. But I remember thinking that when Jupiter goes, when Jupiter stations, we would all be referencing back to it, but I can't find it, so let's just forget about that.
Well, I remember back in May, because something significant happened for me around May or June. Jupiter was hanging out around that degree, 4 or 5 degrees.
Oh yeah, Jupiter was, yeah, in the first half of June. That's maybe what it was. In the first half of June, Jupiter was at 5 degrees. So it kind of opened the door to what's going to happen in December and January.
Yes.
So if it was trining your moon and it felt good, then you have 2 months of that coming up.
Okay. Yeah. So I made a major decision based on that transit. So let's hope.
Oh.
Let's
So then you'll see it come to fruition in December, January.
and it's already started. Yes, exactly. That's exactly
Oh, we're almost there, yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So when does that happen that it starts to like how long? You said 2 months. So
it's retrograde. It's retrograding right now back to, it's at 7 right now, but it'll go, in December it'll be 6 and then it'll be 5. And then on December 31st or 30th, it makes a station at 5 degrees. It looks, it seems to stand still, and then it goes direct. And then it takes until the end of January to be done with that degree.
okay, that's good news.
It's spending a lot of energy in one place. So if
Okay.
you have something at that degree, it's good.
So if you have something in
You-
that degree, Capricorn or Virgo.
Capricorn or Virgo, it might make you feel good.
Yeah.
Leo or Aquarius, even Scorpio, it might be more of a challenge.
Challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. So 5, 6, 4, 5, 6 degrees. Yeah.
What orb do you do for Jupiter? Like something like 2 or 3 degrees?
I'm stingy with my orbs, and then I break the rules. So I leave a 1 degree orb, but I understand that people feel things earlier and longer than I say. I like to tighten it so that it's really focused.
Okay.
But I know that people feel like, I know that people who are feeling Jupiter are feeling it now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It's good to hear your the way you do it, because I know it varies with different people.
I make rules so I can be lenient with them.
I like that. I had another question. Oh yes, it just when you were talking, it made me think about how eventually Jupiter and Uranus will be conjunct in Taurus.
Big deal.
Yeah, and
Big deal.
I looked at that, I don't know, a little while ago, and I was like, oh, that looks exciting. And I did a little bit of research, and I think something like I think I read something like Steve Jobs came up with his Apple stuff like under that kind of, or he had that kind of configuration in his chart. Like it's a big invention, or it's a big deal anyway.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen again for 12 years.
Oh, it happens 12 years. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
more than 12 years. So Jupiter has a 12-year return, but in 12 years, Uranus will be in probably in Cancer. So it'll have to go a little more than 12 years to catch up.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a common thing. And it's very technological because of Uranus. It could be a breakthrough around the climate. It could be a some kind of massive climate event because it's Taurus. But it packs a real punch in April.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, that's soon, hey, in April. Okay.
April, and then in May, so Jupiter and Uranus will be conjunct on the 20th of April. But then between that date and, let's say, the 18th of May, Jupiter will be transiting the territory that Uranus is going to move into through the rest of 2024. So I would say that the conjunction is strong in April, and then it gives us almost a month of activation. But it's hot. It's a hot deal. Hopefully not a hot mess.
Yeah, we've
But
had,
it's interesting because it's right around a Mercury going direct. There's a whole bunch of things going on there.
yeah, we'll cover it
Um,
again when we get closer, but it was just you reminding me that that is something I'm kind of excited about.
yeah, I don't think we know what that's going to be at the moment because we don't know what state the world will be in. We are navigating. I mean, it's such a weird world, right? It was all about Russia and the Ukraine and whoever, people don't even talk about that anymore. And there's so much going on,
Yeah.
right? It's very, it's more than the human brain can actually compute. I mean, I think we can know all these things, but we can't digest
No, it's
what's
just it
happening.
seems so much to digest. I've seen some pretty good comedy bits on on one was about a mother. She was like, yeah, it's pretty hard to raise kids in this time because how do you get them to do their homework and say that it matters when, and then she lists all the things in a very like well grafted way about like, and then aliens, and then
Mhm.
climate disaster, but do your homework, it matters. Like it's
And you could get kidnapped at a rave, or you could get bombed walking down the street. Like, why do
yeah,
your homework?
using
I actually think that's quite real for kids.
no, and it was humorous, but it was humorous because she was saying something very true. Like, how do you hold this thing that, how do you hold kids in a world, to your point, what you were saying, where there's just so much coming at them that, this
Yeah.
thing that you're studying,
So
it's
it's really interesting because we live in an age of like radical influencers who tell us that the most important thing is for us to feel good about ourselves and spend a bit of money doing it on my thing, right? And that's like the incredible individualism of our world has put us in these silos of consumerism, and we're kind of all waking up to that. We get it. A lot of us get it. But even though that's true, that's really kind of a scam or whatever. Um, it is true that you have to resonate at some level of wholeness in yourself to go out into the world and make any kind of
sense.
worthwhile difference.
Yeah.
So it's a real, and I think Jupiter in Taurus, stationary in Taurus, might be asking us about this. Like, is it just about me needing a bath? I mean, a relaxing bath, not a clean behind my ears bath.
Right.
Is it just about me? But if I don't have a calm nervous system, I can't do my work. I can't help anybody. So
Yeah.
Jupiter, in my mind, Jupiter's asking us to shift our consumer um, commitment to feeling good, to being more aware of what it means to be um, grounded or whole or whatever you want to say inside of us so that we can affect the world in some way that's worth doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes absolute sense. Yeah. I remember, I think it was the 90s, maybe it was the late 80s, where I think that's when I noticed we weren't being called people anymore, that we were being called consumers. You
Yes,
remember
the
that
80s
shift?
was all
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm not human now. Now I'm a consumer. Okay. And now we've had like 20 or 30 years of that. Um,
I think the baby boom generation, which people love to hate, but I think the baby boomers were the first generation of humans to be raised as consumers. When
right.
I remember growing up, I remember commercials. I remember bombardment of all that stuff. And it was the first time that we were advertised, children were advertised to as a demographic.
Yeah.
And we've been paying that price ever since.
Yes. But to your point also, about, yeah, we do need to keep our own nervous systems under control. Like I was thinking last week or 2 weeks ago, it's like my service to the collective right now is to try to stay calm.
And it is your business. Without you, I wouldn't have a nervous system.
Yeah, because if I'm walking around like this and somebody just, a little bit of something, I go off, everybody goes off, right? Like we need to make
Right.
sure we're
That's right.
stewarding our nervous systems so that we
Exactly.
can, deal with, maybe, different times we all have different states of mind, but if we can try and remain calm.
Yeah, and it's not just calm, it's whole, it's
Yes.
like it's about being real. It's about being real.
Yes.
And that's different than pampering ourselves. But
Yeah.
I don't know how, you know what I mean? Like it's each person has to figure that out. It's like, it's like eating healthy food reverberates through the world, farmers who grow healthy food then have more incentive to grow healthy food, like blah, right? So it's not about being, yeah. So it's like we need to break the notion that we are consumers,
Yes.
but we need to understand that each of us in our life doing the things that we think are important. Like, so maybe you're going to a protest, or maybe you're a healer, or maybe you're a doctor in Emerge, or anything like that. Maybe you're a lawyer, whatever you're doing, you're going to do better if you are doing the work of your own integration, of
Yes.
integrating your own, and it's a lot of work.
Well said. Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, even Peter Levine, who's the trauma expert, right? Taurus being the body, one of the, the first aid of trauma is to feel your body. Right. And that's one of the first things you do when somebody's having, is help them breathe, like relax them, help them to feel their body now in space and time, come back to the body. It's the first thing that brings us back into
Right. So a consumer, it's the opposite. A consumer is groomed not to feel their body.
Right.
Right. Only to consume things that will make them not have to feel
Not have to
what's in
feel
their
anything.
body.
Yes, exactly. Not feel. Go out and get. Go out and get. Yeah.
That's right. But it's still aimed at the body in a sense.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's really aimed at the traumatized part of us.
Yeah, so differentiating, that's a really good point, Julie. Yeah. The wholeness and the integration. Because you're much better at creating wholeness and integration if you yourself are in that state. Yeah.
Right. So December and January, Jupiter's standing still and saying, yeah, this is really important, folks. And it's the holidays, so that's always triggering for people one way or another.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, it triggers us to consume. It triggers us in our everything, everything.
Yeah, and sometimes people like feel pressure to, make sure people from split homes, oh, I have to see this side of the family, I have to see that side of the family, I have to make sure I do this, I have to make sure I do that, and they kind of split themselves out. And if they can, if we can all just like you said, kind of, I like the term, I came up with the term steward your nervous system, then that helps.
Steward your nervous system. I like that a lot. So yeah, so you don't think of the nervous system as connected to Taurus. It's more of a Gemini. It's more of the nervous system is a mutable thing. But I think that the connection between the nervous system and the body is right there.
Yes, exactly. Good point. Okay, that was fun. So let's meet again around the and see what's going on.
Yeah, we can definitely meet again, and let's invite people
Mhm.
to ask questions, like us, subscribe, all the things that everybody tells you to do, because we want you to consume our information.
And
It's
interact.
really funny. The medium is the message.
Yeah, and even if you have your own thoughts on this or your own comments or things you'd like to share about anything that we've said, feel free to politely comment.
Yes, you can be polite even if you disagree.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
amazing. It's possible.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, and I will leave links in the description for Julie's website for her website.
Okay, thank you.